Hey everyone and welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Oh, absolutely.
This time, we're strapping in and hitting the F1 circuit
Ooh, nice.
with Rubens Barrichello.
Love it. Yeah.
But we're not just talking fastest laps or rivalries.
No.
This is about
Mindset.
mindset, yeah.
We've got this 2024 interview he did on F1 Beyond the Grid, and Barrichello really gets into the mental game of F1, the weight of representing Brazil,
Oh, yeah.
and his time alongside icons like Senna and Schumacher.
I mean, 300-plus Grand Prix races.
Right.
That's a career most drivers can only dream of.
Absolutely.
What really struck me was how open he is about the highs and lows.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't shy away from the tough questions about whether he hit his full potential.
Yeah, and what's fascinating is his perspective. He's aware of the immense pressure, especially following in Senna's footsteps, but there's a strong emphasis on self-awareness and personal growth.
Yeah.
Almost like that journey is the potential, not just trophies.
Right, and he paints a vivid picture of the current F1 scene.
Oh, yeah.
Over 400,000 fans at the Mexican Grand Prix.
Wow.
Packed Fridays at Interlagos.
It's nuts.
This isn't your grandpa's F1.
Right. He's clearly energized by the 2024 season. The unpredictable battles between guys like Verstappen and Norris.
Yeah.
It's attracting a whole new generation of fans.
And that mind game he talks about.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. He compares the pressure of F1 to his early go-karting days when his family was struggling financially. Says that was more intense.
That's a powerful analogy. It reframes what pressure really means. It's not just about media scrutiny or championship points.
Right.
It's about those fundamental worries, those things that keep you up at night. And for a young Barrichello that was keeping his racing dream alive, it speaks volumes about his resilience and drive, even before he hit the big time.
Okay, so picture this 2000. You get the call to join Ferrari.
Oh, wow.
Dream come true, right?
Right.
But Barrichello says it was the toughest period of his career.
Really?
And here's the twist.
Yeah.
It wasn't about the car or the competition he loved driving at Ferrari, but the off-track demands were immense media scrutiny, a relentless travel schedule, even restrictions on what he could say publicly.
Wow.
Imagine being told what to tell the press.
That's wild. It's a reminder that there's this whole other race happening outside the cockpit, especially at a team like Ferrari. It's about managing expectations, playing the PR game, and maintaining a certain image that takes a toll, too.
Absolutely. And let's not forget, he's now teammates with Michael Schumacher,
Oh, yeah.
already a two-time world champion.
Right.
That adds a whole other layer of complexity.
For sure.
Now, Eddie Jordan famously said Barrichello didn't reach his full potential. What's interesting is Barrichello's response. He doesn't sound offended at all.
How does he respond?
Instead of arguing, he expresses gratitude for the opportunities he had, and he keeps circling back to self-improvement. It's almost like he defines potential differently. Maybe it's not just about wins and championships, but about that constant striving to be better, to learn and grow throughout your career.
That's a powerful way to look at it.
Yeah.
It shifts the focus from external validation to internal growth.
And that brings us to a really crucial element of his story. The pressure of being seen as Senna's successor.
Oh, man.
9 consecutive retirements at his home Grand Prix in Brazil. You can practically feel the weight of expectations.
Imagine that burden carrying the hopes of a nation on your shoulders. He actually said that having Senna present took some pressure off because the spotlight wasn't solely on him.
So even with a legend like Senna, there's this sense of living in his shadow.
Yeah.
It's not just about talent. It's about navigating those legacies and external pressures that come with representing a country with such a rich F1 history.
Absolutely. And that 1994 Imola crash, to come back from that, to keep pushing, that speaks volumes about his resilience.
He actually told this incredible story about going back to Silverstone, determined to set his fastest lap, even if it meant crashing.
Yeah.
He needed to confront that fear head on.
Wow. Now, for most of us, thankfully, we're not risking life and limb on a racetrack, but that mindset, that willingness to push beyond your comfort zone, even embrace the possibility of failure, that's a lesson we can all apply.
Okay, but back to Brazil. Did things ever improve for him at his home race?
Well, he eventually reached the podium at Interlagos in 2004, but even then he felt it wasn't enough, given how well he was driving that day.
Hold on, he's disappointed with a podium finish. What happened?
This is where Barrichello's almost uncanny instinct for track conditions comes in. He started on wet tires, built up a huge lead as the track dried, but stuck with his gut feeling that it was too early to switch to intermediates.
He was going against what the team was telling him. That's risky.
And he was right. He would have won that race if it weren't for a problem during his pit stop.
Man, that's gotta sting.
Yeah.
But it also shows he was starting to trust his own judgment, even over the team strategy. That's a turning point, right?
Exactly. It's like he's finding his voice both on the track and in communicating with the team.
And then there's this bombshell. Barrichello says his peak wasn't with Ferrari, but much later in 2012 with Williams.
You can almost hear the record scratch. Williams was struggling at that time, but Barrichello was heavily involved in developing their 2012 car, the one with the new Mercedes engine. He felt a connection to that car, believed it could be a winner.
Wait, are you telling me he could have won a race in a Williams? Which one?
He doesn't say outright, but hints at the possibility of a win at the 2012 Brazilian Grand Prix. Imagine that, finally conquering his home race after all those years.
Okay, now I need all the details on that race.
Hmm.
But before we get sidetracked, there's that incredible overtake on Alonso at Silverstone in 2008. He was driving a Honda, not exactly known for their speed at the time. How did he pull that off?
Again, it's that Barrichello instinct. Everyone else pits for intermediates as the rain eases up, but he stays out on wets, reading those conditions like a master.
He's not just driving the car, he's feeling the track, the weather, anticipating what's coming next, and it pays off. He ends up on the podium.
It's a masterclass in race strategy. And trusting your gut, he knew something everyone else missed, and he had the conviction to stick with his call.
Speaking of legendary drivers, Barrichello has some really insightful things to say about Fernando Alonso. He's clearly impressed by Alonso's longevity and passion for the sport, even after 400 Grand Prix.
And there's a sense of kinship there. Barrichello admires Alonso's competitive spirit, his relentless drive. He even shares a story about sim racing with Alonso, where Alonso's intensity is on full display even in a casual setting. It's like these guys are wired differently.
But what about the future of Brazilian drivers? Does Barrichello see anyone following in his footsteps?
He highlights Gabriel Bortoletto as the next one, a young driver with immense potential. But Barrichello is quick to point out that raw talent isn't enough, especially when you're carrying the hopes of a nation with such a storied F1 legacy.
So what does it take? What's the secret sauce?
Barrichello's advice to Bortoletto is simple yet profound. Get to know yourself.
Wow, that's unexpectedly deep. What do you think he meant by that?
I think he's talking about self-awareness on a fundamental level, knowing your strengths and weaknesses, your motivations, your fears. That's crucial not just in F1, but in any pursuit. And it's something Barrichello clearly embodies.
It's like he's saying self-knowledge is the foundation for everything else. Without it, talent and opportunity can only take you so far.
Exactly. And that brings us to a question for all of us. How well do we really know ourselves?
Ooh, that's a good one. And maybe Barrichello's story can give us some clues, but we've only scratched the surface here. There's so much more to unpack, especially about his time at Ferrari alongside Michael Schumacher. That's a whole other level of intensity.
You're not kidding. The Ferrari years were pivotal for Barrichello, full of triumphs, challenges, and let's be honest, probably some juicy behind-the-scenes stories.
Can't wait to dive into that. But first, we need to take a quick break. We'll be right back to delve deeper into Barrichello's Ferrari experience and what we can learn from it. We're back, and I'm still thinking about Barrichello's advice to young Bortoletto. You know, get to know yourself. It's deceptively simple, but it really resonated with me.
It's a thread that runs through Barrichello's whole story, isn't it? He's constantly reflecting, analyzing, trying to understand his own strengths and weaknesses, and that self-awareness seems to be a key part of his resilience.
He even said that the pressure of his early go-karting days, you know, when his family was struggling financially, was more intense than anything he faced in F1.
Wow.
It's mind-blowing, right?
Yeah.
We tend to think of F1 as the pinnacle of pressure, but Barrichello flips that on its head. For him, the real pressure was about survival, about keeping his dream alive when the odds were stacked against him. And that brings us back to that pivotal moment after the 1994 Imola crash when he went back to Silverstone, determined to set his fastest lap or crash.
It's almost like he needed to prove something, not to the world, but to himself. He had to confront his fear, push his limits, and rediscover that inner drive.
That takes serious guts.
Yeah.
But I think it also shows how crucial self-belief is. He knew he had the talent, but he needed to convince himself that he could still do it even after experiencing such a traumatic event.
Yeah, and that self-belief seems to manifest in different ways throughout his career. Think about that 2008 Silverstone race where he ignored team orders and stayed on wet tires.
Right.
Everyone else was pitting for intermediates, but Barrichello trusted his gut.
And it paid off big time. He ends up on the podium, proving that sometimes your instincts are more valuable than any data or strategy.
Exactly. It's a reminder that intuition That feeling in your gut can be incredibly powerful, especially in high-pressure situations. And for Barrichello, that instinct was honed over years of experience of reading the track, feeling the car, understanding the nuances of the weather.
It's like he developed this sixth sense, almost like a superpower.
Right.
And he wasn't afraid to use it, even when it meant going against the team's strategy, like that time at the 2000 German Grand Prix when he told Ross Brawn he wanted to stay out on slicks.
Ah, yes. Everyone else was pitting for intermediates, but Barrichello could see that the track was drying faster than anyone anticipated. Braun thought he was crazy, but Barrichello held his ground.
And boom, he wins the race, his first ever Formula One victory. Talk about a validation of his instincts.
It's a moment that really crystallizes Barrichello's journey. He's not just a talented driver. He's a strategic thinker, a risk taker, and someone who's deeply in tune with his own intuition.
Which makes me wonder, even though he achieved so much in his F1 career, 11 wins, 68 podiums, is there a part of him that still feels like he left something on the table?
That's the question Eddie Jordan raised, right? Did Barrichello reach his full potential? But maybe it's not about quantifying success in terms of wins or championships. Maybe it's about constantly pushing your own boundaries, exploring your capabilities, and embracing the journey of self-discovery.
I love that perspective. It takes the pressure off this idea of achieving some predetermined outcome and focuses on the process of growth and self-improvement.
And in that sense, Barrichello's story is incredibly inspiring. He's not just passing on his knowledge to young drivers like Bortoletto. He's modeling a mindset, a way of approaching challenges and striving for excellence.
It's a powerful legacy to leave behind. And it makes me think about the impact we have on others, even in small ways. What lessons are we passing on? What kind of example are we setting?
Those are great questions to consider. And speaking of legacies, we can't talk about Barrichello without addressing his time at Ferrari, especially working alongside Michael Schumacher. That had to be an incredible and probably intense experience.
No kidding. The Ferrari years were pivotal for Barrichello, full of triumphs and challenges. I can't wait to hear what he has to say about that period, especially his dynamic with Schumacher, both on and off the track.
Yeah. All right, the Ferrari years. I mean,
here you go.
Talk about a pressure cooker.
Right. Ferrari, Schumacher, it's like high stakes, everything's intensified.
Yeah, and he doesn't hold back.
No.
He talks about that media pressure that travel demands.
Yeah.
Even restrictions on what he could tell the press.
Oh, wow.
Imagine being told what you can and can't say publicly.
Yeah, with the whole world watching.
It's a whole other side of F1.
Right. It's like you see the PR machine working.
Yeah, and then there's Schumacher.
Now, how do you navigate that when you're up against a legend?
He's pretty candid about it, you know. He acknowledges Schumacher's talent, but he also hints at those mind games.
Right.
He even says, was Schumacher better than me? I think so. But 51, 49, 70, 30? I don't know. We will never know.
That's a loaded statement.
Yeah.
What do you think he's getting at?
I think he's saying it wasn't always a fair fight. You know, team order strategies favoring Schumacher, maybe even some preferential treatment.
Yeah.
We'll never know for sure. But Barrichello definitely felt it wasn't always level.
That's got to be frustrating, you know?
Absolutely.
To feel like you might not have the same chances even if you have the talent.
But what's amazing is he doesn't seem bitter.
No.
He could dwell on that, but he focuses on what he learned and how he grew.
It's like you saying, yeah, it was tough, but it made me stronger.
Exactly. He talks about learning to navigate those team dynamics, like the media, and staying true to himself, even around those big personalities.
He's always adjusting his internal compass.
Yeah, figuring out how to operate in that world without losing himself.
There's that quote.
Which one?
I got on top of my stuff and became better with myself, treating myself better when I started to put too many questions aside.
Powerful.
What's that saying to you?
Self-acceptance. You know, Barrichello realized overthinking wasn't helping him move forward.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to trust yourself and just focus.
Like let go of the need to control everything. Just be present, move forward.
Exactly. And it ties back to his advice to Bortoletto, get to know yourself. It's about understanding your strengths, weaknesses, fears, and using that to navigate life, F1, or everyday stuff.
It's bigger than racing.
Right.
Barrichello's story. It's about resilience, self-awareness.
That constant self-improvement.
Matter the obstacles.
He might not have won everything he wanted in F1.
Right.
But his impact is huge. He's a role model. His insights resonate.
He's left his mark, and I think there's something in there for all of us.
For sure, whether you're racing or just dealing with life.
It's absolutely. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Rubens Barrichello.
Hope you enjoyed it.
We did.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep getting to know yourself.